Everyone is talking about AI agents taking over white-collar work, so I tested it in the most literal way I could. I used Hermes Agent to build an AI company that runs a dropshipping store. We call it Spoon Lagoon. I'm not sitting inside the workflow, doing the work myself. I only remain as the human CEO in the background. And this company started with only 2 small text files. From these 2 files, I wanted to see whether Hermes could grow something that behaves less like a chatbot and more like an actual organization. Every worker in this company is a robot working day and night. Every agent has a specific role, specific responsibilities and access to different tools. Within just a few hours, the agent created a surprisingly polished web shop. Every product, image, text and decision on the site was generated through the autonomous work of the agent swarm. Together, they built and now operate this dropshipping webshop for absurd kitchen gadgets, and they named it Spoon Lagoon. They built it within Hermes Agent, an agent framework that has taken the AI world by storm.
No problem at all.
And these days, it's even more used than OpenClaw. The software engineer built both, the front end and the back end, taking ownership of the full implementation and deployment process. The product researcher finds new gadgets from various suppliers. The accountant checks whether the numbers make sense, and supply chain looks for the risks everyone else would rather ignore. Then the intern creates the visuals that make the store look real. When a customer sends a question, it does not just disappear into a chat window, it becomes real work. There is a dedicated agent here as well, the customer support. This process and every other single task of every agent appears in a Kanban board to make sure everything goes hand in hand. A chief of staff coordinates all of this and contacts me on Telegram only when a decision needs the human CEO. So the agents can work, research, build and answer customers. But important decisions still come back to me. And the result is not just a website. The system leaves behind an organization, employees, tasks, decisions, procedures and lessons for future work. Everything nicely documented in my personal notes. Hermes Agents is the layer that connects a stateless language model to memory, tools, skills, messaging and scheduled work. In the next few minutes, I will introduce you how the most recent agent frameworks actually work under the hood. But the real question is, can this company actually operate without me micromanaging every step? At the end of this video, I will place a real order, check whether the confirmation email works and see whether the company sends me an order confirmation via mail and all the relevant CEO information via Telegram. So let's start from the beginning and see how 2 small files become Spoon Lagoon. Before we build a company, Hermes needs a place to run. For this experiment, I'm using a fresh Ubuntu terminal inside Windows through WSL. A video how to set it up is linked below. You could also run Hermes on macOS, Linux, Docker, a Raspberry Pi, a virtual machine or the desktop app. The important part is not the machine. The important part is that Hermes has a place where it can read files, write files and keep working. So if you have your terminal ready, open the Hermes GitHub page, copy the install command and simply run it in the terminal. Again, if the terminal is still scary for you, simply go with the desktop app here. During setup, Hermes asks which language model provider it should use. In my setup, I choose OpenAI Codex. To connect the account, I open the link from the terminal, log in, copy the displayed code back into the terminal and keep the remaining setup questions on the defaults. And this is the entire company at the beginning. An almost empty folder, no website, no dashboard, no employees. No complex agent setup yet. If you imagine an AI company, you probably expect some giant configuration system, but I start with only these 2 seed files. The first file is Agents.md. Think of it as the company charter. It defines what Spoon Lagoon is, what the agents are allowed to do, and the most important rule, I'm still the human CEO. The agents can research, build, recommend, but they do not get the final authority. The second file is the employees registry. This is the hiring blueprint. It lists the roles the company should eventually need. A factual software engineer, a hyper-persistent accountant, a paranoid supply chain analyst, and a few others. These are not employees yet. They are instructions which employees to create. That's all I created by hand. 1 file defines the company and 1 file defines the people. Together, both files are below 200 lines. From these 2 files, a whole company is originating just by agents working together on it. By the way, I prepared a PDF with the exact prompts and a step-by-step manual for the setup. You can find it in the description. I manually create only one agent, the Chief of Staff, by running this command, Hermes profile create. Then the name of the agent, we call it Chief of Staff. I clone it from the main profile and I give it a short description as a starting point here. I point it at the company folder and give it access to the 2 seed files. So let us hire employee number 1 and see what kind of company it creates. Now I start the Chief of Staff. At this point, Spoon Lagoon is still just one agent, 2 seed files and an almost empty folder. This is the CLI interface of Hermes. The first prompt we are going to put here does not ask to build a shop. It asks the Chief of Staff to create the organization that can build a shop. It reads the company charter and the employee registry, what Spoon Lagoon is, who has authority and which role needs to exist. Then Hermes turns those instructions into an agent profile, workspace and shared company files. Now the company has specialists, engineering, the product researcher, accounting, supply chain customer support and product visuals. Each role has different instructions, so they do not all behave like the same chatbot here. Let us pause for a second and look under the hood of Hermes to see what is actually happening. The Chief of Staff is creating a company structure, but the language model itself did not learn any of this permanently. By default, a large language model is 100% stateless. It has no memory of your project, of your files, of your company, your previous work. It only sees the prompt and context you sent into the specific request. Chat apps like ChatGPT solve this by sending extra context. For example, the whole conversation you had before, who you are, what are your preferences, system instructions. Hermes does the same idea, but here for an agent workspace. Before every model call, it assembles the relevant context from files, from profiles, from memory, tools, project rules, and the current tasks. So when I ask an agent to add a product, the model does not magically remember Spoon Lagoon. Hermes rebuilds the working context, who the agent is, what a company is, what it knows, what tools it can use, and what rules it must follow. That context assembly is the real trick. So what does Hermes actually send to the model? Not just my latest message that is shown here under point 2, together with conversation history. In addition, it builds a context package around the request. Before the message, there is the system prompt, where the model gets the agent's identity, useful memory, project instructions. The system prompt starts with the agent profile that is formulated in a file called SOUL.md. Let's open the soul of the customer support, and she's instructed to be warm, practical and clear. That file shapes how the agent behaves. So let's test that. I open a new customer support session and ask it to answer this customer inquiry. Hi there, what material is the aqua crab Spoon made it from? Best regards, Chris. So the agent looks up the information in the company knowledge base and gives the correct answer here. It is made out of silicon. So let's change the agent's persona to extremely anxious, nervous and evasive. Avoid direct answers out of the fear of being wrong. And now the same model behaves differently. It avoids a direct answer, even though the question and the product information are the same. Hermes did not change the model here. It changed the context the model receives. Another part of the system prompt is user.md. This stores durable information about me, about the user. For example, if I say, please keep my answers short, Hermes can save that as a user preference. So let's open user.md now and see whether my preference was stored correctly. Yes, Hermes did a good job here, it is there. The model did not learn this by changing its weights. Hermes saved it as context that will now be added to every single large language model interaction in the future. The third file here is memory.md, which is for durable project memory like project paths, what Spoon Lagoon is about. Just one sentence here, like user and soul, keeping it very short. It needs to be very precise because memory becomes only useful when it is constantly curated by keeping it short. Hermes can also bring in project files like agents.md, the employee registry and other instructions from the workspace. So every request becomes more than one sentence, actually a huge amount of text. Next, we look at tools and skills, the parts that let an agent do useful work outside plain text. A tool is any capability outside plain text, reading files, searching the web, controlling a browser, running code, or generating an image. The model itself does not perform these actions. It requests a tool call, Hermes executes it, sends the result back, and the model decides what to do next. One prompt can become a whole chain of tool calls. So for the image in turn, I first need to connect an actual image generation provider. So I run Hermes tools, choose image generation, and Hermes shows me the available backends. So for this setup, I choose fall.ai. I open the API key page in my Fall AI account and copy the secret. Then I paste the secret back into Hermes and select GPT Image 2. Right now, the best image generator. The secrets, keys, passwords are by design not sent to any language model. Hermes stores it in environment variables in your operating system where they are super safe. And the model only sees the tool interface afterwards. Tools and skills are different. A tool is a capability Hermes can execute. A skill is a reusable know-how, instructions, best practices, pitfalls, and verification steps. Skills guide the agent, tools let it act. So let me demonstrate that with the image generation intern. Before generating the product image, the agent reads the Comfy UI skill because the skill contains the workflow and quality rules. The Comfy UI skill is not the image tool itself. It is an instruction file, how to write the prompt, which settings matters, what mistakes to avoid, and how to check whether the output is usable. After reading the skill, the agent calls the actual image generation tool. The skill shaped the procedure, but the tool produced the image. That is the full loop. My request goes in, Hermes assembles context, the agent checks the relevant skill, calls the tools, receives the files, and reports back. Now the company gets its first real task. I do not tell the chief of staff which employee to use or how to build the website. I describe the outcome. Create the first version of Spoon Lagoon web presence and route the work through the company. As before, I put all prompts and setup details into the document linked in the description. Before assigning the task, it checks the relevant skills, how to use the Kanban board for agent work, and how to approach the implementation with test-driven development. Now I open the Hermes dashboard. This is the browser interface where I can see the company's work visually. Tasks, employees, status, and who owns what. The chief of staff turns my request into a visible Kanban task and assigns it to the software engineer. The software engineer reads the company rules, builds the first front end and back end, starts the local server, and checks the result in the browser. At this stage, we just have a very early version of the shop without any product. So now I asked the company to find one absurd kitchen gadget that is actually worth selling. I'm not asking one model for a quick opinion. I'm asking the organization to make a decision. So the chief of staff splits the work across specialists, product research looks for candidates, the accountant checks the numbers, and supply chain looks for the risks everyone else might miss. So the product researcher finds 5 real candidates and records the evidence. Product names, source links, notes, and why each one might fit Spoon Lagoon. Then the accountant checks whether the economics make sense here. A funny product is still a bad product if the price, shipping and margin do not work here. After that, supply chain reviews the weak spots. Material, food contact risks, detachable parts, batteries, magnets, shipping problems, and unsupported claims. This is where disagreement becomes useful. All employees compare the options and the Aqua Crab spoon holder comes out at top. It is weird enough for the brand, simple enough to explain, and the economics look better than the alternatives. And the reasoning is not hidden in one chat. I can open the Markdown notes, compare candidates like the Aqua Crab spoon holder, and inspect why one product won. The chief of staff turns the specialist reports into one decision request. I still have to approve it as a CEO. In this case, I agree with the recommendation. Let's go with the spoon holder. Only after approval do the next employees continue. Marketing writes the product copy. And this is the first website version after the company did the implementation. Wow. It's not a finished job yet, for sure, but improves the important part. The organization can turn a decision into a working product page. Here is the Aqua Grab spoon holder. There's a product image, a price, a page layout. It costs $19.95. Would I personally buy it? I'm not completely sure here, but for a weird kitchen gadget store, it fits the brand perfectly. Before we make the website more complete, I want to change how to talk to the company. Instead of sitting at the terminal, let's connect the chief of staff to Telegram. Gateway layer connects the same agent system to the place where I already communicate. Terminal, Telegram, WhatsApp, email and more. For this company, I start with Telegram. It turns the chief of staff into something closer to an executive interface on my phone. I can send messages from anywhere, and Hermes routes it back into the same company workspace. To set it up, I run Chief of Staff, Gateway, Setup, and choose the automatic Telegram setup. Hermes gives me a link. I open it, Telegram creates the bot conversation, and after about a minute, the gateway is ready. Now comes the important test. Am I talking to a generic bot or to the same chief of staff that understands Spoon Lagoon? So I sent the simplest possible message. Hey, are you there? Telegram did not create a second agent system here. It is just another doorway into the same chief of staff profile with the same files, Kanban board, memory and approval rules. This changed the operating model. I do not need to sit inside the terminal anymore. I can message the chief of staff from Telegram, and the evidence still lands in the company workspace where I can audit it later. So I sent the chief of staff a large assignment. The first product has been implemented. Please proceed with the following tasks. We want to have 5 additional products. The chief of staff gives its final selection, product ready copy, visuals, layout and presentation, and implement the checkout flow with order and email confirmation. This is no longer a tiny prompt, it's a company assignment. Product selection, marketing, images, the front-end work, support, the checkout and email confirmation. Over the next roughly 2 hours, the chief of staff breaks the requests into tasks, assigns them to the right employees and tracks the work through Kanban. I am no longer coordinating every specialist by myself. I gave the objective and the organization is handling the routing. At the end, Spoon Lagoon is much closer to the real shop. More products, better presentation, customer support and a checkout flow with confirmations. First, I checked the visible shop. It now has multiple products. I generated visuals, descriptions, prices and a layout that looks much more closer to a real shop. Honestly, this already looks better than many small online shops out there. And it's not just finished framework with content pasted in. The software engineer wrote the actual front-end and back-end code for this. So let me add the snoutlet egg separator to the cart. The cart updates, the price is correct and the checkout button is there. But let's also add the garlic reaper here. Now I place a test order with customer details, putting my address in, definitely going with the Pelican shipping here, paying with PayPal. The website accepts the order and shows the confirmation page. So this seems to work. Next, I check the inbox. The confirmation email arrives and it contains the order details. Wow, perfect. So the website did not just show a success screen, it also triggered the follow-up email. And this is the part I really like. I also get a Telegram message when the checkout appears. Then I test customer support here. I ask a simple product question. What material is the Accra crab spoon holder made from? A Kanban task appears. The customer lady is looking that information up in my Obsidian vault and answers the question correctly. Works nice, perfect. So the webshop is not even the most interesting output here. The important result is the structure behind it. The agents did not only leave code behind, they left behind an organization that can continue working. That is what makes Hermes interesting to me. Not that it replaces a company and not that the model magically learns. It gives you the pieces to build a controlled AI system that accumulates context, procedures and useful structure over time. Most agents impress you once and then forget. This one can grow with you because the system around the model remembers what matters. Make sure to like and subscribe this video and stay tuned for more updates in the world of AI on this channel. Cheers!